Hello, everybody. My name is Kristen. I'm the Director of Operations here at GMI, and I'd like to welcome you to our roundtable today on how to start a career as an entrepreneur. We're going to spend a little bit of time discussing this topic. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in, and we can certainly address them at the end. As a reminder, this call will be recorded and made available on our YouTube channel. And we are joined today by two GMI mentors, Jake and Tony, who will introduce themselves and share a bit about their career journey. Then we will move into the questions that were submitted from our mentees for this topic. And so, Jake, would you like to go first by introducing yourself?
Hi, my name is Jake Motola. I am the founder and CEO of Latuda Bay Coffee Roasters. Very excited to be here to talk about this subject as I've been living it in real time over the past probably 9 months since we decided to do this kind of business.
Tony?
All right. I'm Tony Paradiso, and I've worked with small to medium-sized growth companies for over 40 years. I've started a handful of companies, been responsible for growing a number of business units. I've worked in a dozen different industries, and I admire anyone that seeks to become an entrepreneur, as I've been an independent consultant for over 40 years and kind of detached myself from the typical work for somebody else routine.
Thank you very much, both of you. The first question that we received is, what was your personal path to where you are today? What was your college degree, first job, current job? Sort of, how did you get to where you are? Jake, would you like to go first?
Sure. The path has been long and has had many branches. I started off, I graduated from Portland State University with a degree in general studies. I spent a long time in university trying to figure out what I wanted to be. And it ended up at the end of it, I was a general student. I started off in high tech a few years after that, working for a company called Attachmate that did terminal emulation, which for most people is probably a lost science. I've spent 10 years at Microsoft and 10 years at F5. And in the interim, I've started a market research company back in the day and sold that. And recently, the most recent corporate job. So I spent most of my career in high tech and corporate environment. I worked for Trimble Geospatial, working on robots, laser beams, and precise positioning. And through that, I learned that I didn't want to stay in the corporate environment. And I spent a few months trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I decided that because coffee had been such an integral part of my life from the time I was a child and throughout my career, that being a coffee roaster sounded like a really great idea. And I pursued that.
Very good. Thank you. Tony?
Yeah, I always knew I would eventually go to college because I had as one of my goals to make a lot of money. I thought that was an important thing to do. I found out that money wasn't the most important thing in the world, but I got my first job. I hate to admit this, through nepotism. My brother hired me as a field service rep, so I was fixing early point of sale machines in grocery stores and drugstores. I ended up getting transferred to corporate headquarters in California, and that's when I started my path in marketing and product management, and got exposed to the corporate world. I spent several years in the corporate world, but then realized that it wasn't really an environment that I wanted to be involved in. The level of ethics and principles in the U.S. at that time in high tech didn't meet my standards, and I left and started consulting. And I've been basically an independent consultant for the last 40 years, although I did dabble back a couple of times into full-time employment. So my path has been nomadic. I've worked in many different industries, but have an extensive technology background in both high tech, telecom, and now in clean technology.
Very good. Thank you very much. The next question is, what inspired you to start your own business, to sort of go out on your own? Tony, would you like to go first?
Yeah, that's a simple question. I wanted to be my own boss. Taking direction wasn't a strong suit for me. I wanted to be able to decide what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, and how I wanted to do it. And that's an advantage of being an entrepreneur, going out on your own.
Jake?
Yeah, I think, you know, looking back, I've always wanted to start and have my own business. I think fortunately or unfortunately, I lucked into positions in the corporate world that were a lot more lucrative at the time and a lot more educational in that I learned a great deal working for some of the biggest and finest companies in the world, and it was hard to leave. It was hard to leave those environments. There was something exciting about being at Microsoft when they did Outlook, when they did Windows 95, and they did some of the major things in the tech world. And I think that it's always been in the back of my mind. It's always been something that I wanted to do, but I was kind of locked in and kind of habituated to the income and sort of the prestige of working for a large corporation with a fancy title. And it wasn't until the opportunity presented itself that I decided that working for myself, well, I'm getting older too. And so I wanted to make sure I gave myself an opportunity to realize a goal or realize a dream when I still had time and energy to do so. And that was sort of the catalyst for it. I think also doing something that excites you and you're passionate about, and having the ability to make that choice was something that intrigued me and sort of spurred me to make the decision to start my own company.
In the next question, I think you already started to allude to this a little bit, Jake, but what were some of the biggest challenges, um, and what is the hardest part of being an entrepreneur? But I guess first, what's the biggest challenge to make that step to kind of branch out on your own? And I think you started to allude to it was difficult for you to leave Microsoft, but what else was challenging about it?
I think it's challenging because when you're busy working on things that are encompassing, meaning that it's taking a lot of your energy, it takes a lot of your time, it takes a lot of thought or thought work to be able to engage in those environments, that to be able to contemplate what you really want to do and then pick something that you have a passion for, that you're actually excited to put the effort into, is important. And the effort is not, it's non-trivial. It's a lot harder to do, to be an entrepreneur in certain cases than it is to work for somebody else. You don't have the support mechanisms, you don't have the team, you don't have multiple resources that allow you to do things at a scale that move things along faster. And so you really have to, you have to have a lot of discipline, and you have to be able to buckle down and say, okay, I'm going to do this, and then have the wherewithal to take that first step. And I think taking the first step and actually committing to it is probably half the battle. And then not giving up, not giving up when it gets tough, not giving up when you're losing sleep, not giving up when things aren't going as well as you'd like them to go.
And Tony, what were some of your biggest challenges or hardest part of being an entrepreneur, in your opinion?
I think Jake stole them all. No, Jake's point about kind of like, we both were in high tech, and that was a very lucrative industry. So one of the big challenges on stepping out on your own is the financial uncertainty, right? You're giving up that weekly paycheck, and you don't know when revenue is going to come in. In the old days, and Jake and I have a few years, behind us, companies used to be loyal to employees, but in reality today, there really isn't any loyalty. So your paycheck isn't as secure as you think it is, right? You could get workforce reduced next week, right? And so you got to get over the psychological barrier of okay, I don't have regular income coming in, but you have to have the confidence to know that you can generate an income without a support system around you. It's absolutely right. You know, it's not easy being an entrepreneur. You're going to work longer hours than you would if you were working for a company, and all the responsibility lies on your shoulders. Right? You don't have you don't have the resources, and every decision you make is going to have an impact not only on you, but if you're growing a company with employees, all your employees. And so those are the kind of the biggest challenges, I think.
But then on the flip side, what are some of your favorite parts or what have been the exciting aspects of being an entrepreneur? Tony?
Oh, well, and that's an easy question too, because it's exciting. It's exciting to start and grow something. I think that's why, I haven't in my career so much started numerous companies as much as worked with many, many startups. I enjoy the challenge of creating something. I enjoy the diversity that comes along with either, being a consultant like me or an entrepreneur. Every day is going to be different when you're an entrepreneur. One day you may be working on a marketing strategy. The next day you may be working on operational issues. And so you don't get into a kind of a rut that you can, get into when you have a 9 to 5 job where you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. So, every day is a little bit different, and the sense of accomplishment when you accomplish something is, that to me is a tremendous reward.
Jake?
Yeah, no, I, everything Tony said resonates with me. I think that um, just to you have to. Part of it is knowing what you don't know and being able to make progress and learn. I mean, the learning aspect of it has been fantastic. I learn something every day. I learned that I've done something good. I've learned that I've done something bad. I learned that my artwork isn't, is childlike, and that perhaps a professional's better at doing a website and doing art than I am, or coming up with copy. I also learned that that accomplishing something after going through, like, we were looking for a toll roaster. A toll roaster is somebody that will roast in large volumes for you if you don't have the capacity. But going through that process, researching that process, interviewing them, talking to different people, and finally securing a business relationship that you can depend upon is very gratifying. And so when you get the wins, when you actually accomplish something, whether it's, ordering packaging or, stickers, and having them delivered, is just as exciting as some of the bigger things you accomplish in the corporate world. It truly is a gratifying experience. And the lows are expected. I mean, the hiccups are expected. You're fully dependent upon yourself and the small team that you have with you to accomplish things. And sometimes they don't look the way that you want them to. They don't happen as quickly as you want them to. But when they do happen, that sense of satisfaction and sometimes relief is, it's not replaceable by a lot of different things. It's a fantastic experience, but it's not an easy experience, and it does have its hiccups and its potholes.
What skills do you think you have developed or been forced to develop as an entrepreneur? You both came from tech, so obviously now you're both doing something sort of different. Are there skills that you were sort of forced to get good at, or that you realize, like, oh no, I never knew how to do this? Tony?
Yeah, I had the good fortune of starting my career in marketing. And of course, I'm biased, but marketing is the one organization in a company that really touches on every other facet of the business, right? Our goal is to look out into the market and determine what the market needs. We have to work with sales to develop a sales strategy, operations to develop, manufacturing and forecasting plans, finance to ensure that whatever we're doing is going to make money, customer support, et cetera, et cetera. So I learned a lot in my time in corporate because of my role in marketing, touched all the other departments in the company. But then when I went independent and started working with companies, and this wasn't by design, but I ended up working with, companies from startups to Fortune 500 companies. I've worked in healthcare, construction, uh, numerous technology industries. I even told Jake the other day that I launched, and I don't know if they're available in Africa, but I launched one of the first gummy vitamins in the market. And you learn a lot with working with companies of different sizes, because as companies evolve, you have to evolve your management style and your processes. And of course, industries all have different nuances, different markets, different distribution channels. So I was fortunate that I was able to have such a varied career. And like Jake said, I learned something every day. And that's important. I mean, I hope to learn something every day until the day I die.
Absolutely.
Jake, what skills have you had or have developed?
Or in the process of developing.
Yes.
I think that, so I spent most of my career in tech as a product manager. And as a product manager, you're responsible for a great deal in regard to the conception and sort of the development and birthing of a product. But all the peripheral things that go on within a corporation that you are aware of or maybe not aware of, like accounting, like how do you do taxes? How do you get licenses? How do you order things? How do you write copy? How do you make sure the copy is sane? How do you trademark things? How do you register? All the things that happen in a corporation that you're insulated from. As an entrepreneur, you're responsible for. There's no go-to-market team that creates my social media accounts and all the different social medias, Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever they are. You have to learn how to do that. You have to learn how to use QuickBooks. You have to learn how to use, and we're using Shopify, which is an integrated platform. You still have to learn how to do it. You still have to learn how to modify website code to allow somebody to pay you with a credit card. So there are so many things that you have to learn, you're forced to learn, that you may or may not be exposed to in a corporate environment, because in a corporate environment, your roles and responsibilities are stratified, and you're not responsible for everything. You're responsible for a great deal, but accounting, finance, reporting to whatever it is, you have to learn how to do that, and you have to learn how to do that not in a scaled way. You have to start from, no, I have to do something very simple. I have to do something that happens one time, and as you grow, you have to learn how to do that multiple times. So one of the things as an entrepreneur, and I talk with Tony about this, is that you have to be aware of your scale. I only have a 20-pound coffee roaster. So if I get a 200-pound order and I get 10 of those, I have to roast all of that coffee. And so I might not have allocated the right amount of time to do it. So learning how to manage your time, learning how to run your budget, because as an entrepreneur, you don't have endless funds and endless resources. You have limited resources and limited funds, and how you use those has a bearing on how quickly and how successful you can be.
And then what advice would you give to someone who is seeking to be an entrepreneur? At this time, our mentees are preparing to graduate or have already graduated, but some of them certainly want to go that entrepreneur route. What advice would you give them to make that move? Tony?
Yeah. And I think we've talked about this before, but you got to be prepared to work hard. You're going to work harder than you have in your life, because it's being an entrepreneur is a 7-day a week a job. You have to you have to be able to take rejection and failure, because there are going to be bad days, as Jake said. So you got to persevere. Often the difference between successful people and the people that are less successful isn't because successful people are smarter. It's because they stuck to it. they dealt with the bad times. Because no matter what you're doing, you're going to have bad days. And when you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be exposed to so many more issues that could go wrong than if you're working for a company, and you have to fight through those things. The other piece of advice would be, it's all about cash flow. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. Right? And so don't get enamored with the revenue line. Oh, you're generating a lot of revenue. If you're not making any money, it doesn't make any difference. And when you're running a business, and particularly when you're responsible for payroll, you have to be keenly aware of cash flow and how much cash resources you have at any given time.
Jake, what about you? What advice would you give?
Again, I echo a lot of what Tony said, if not all of it. I think that the most important thing is having the will and the desire to be an entrepreneur, and having and developing a sense of self-confidence that allows you to take the shots and to take the blows, and being able to pick yourself back up the next day and say, okay, yesterday wasn't a great day, but today is going to be a great day. There has to be an element of fun in it. I mean, it can't be drudgery. People don't respond well to doing things that they don't want to do. So whatever subject you pick, whatever business that you choose to go into, it should be something, passion's thrown around a lot, but it should be something that you're interested in, that you're willing to learn about. You're willing to, again, what Tony said, work hard, and work harder than you will for another company, because it's on you. And if you have partners, if you have people who work for you, as Tony said, you have to take the responsibility, or be able to take the responsibility for making sure that they're taken care of as well. So it's not just a singular self-effacing thing. It's not just about you. It's about everybody in your world that's dependent upon you, that's pulling for you, that's invested in you. So you have to be willing to bear that responsibility, and bear it, it's kind of cliche, but bear it with a smile, right? Even if it's going bad, you can't be the one to have the cloud over you and be crying about it. You have to pick yourself up, and you have to continue going, because there are other people involved. In cash flow is king. Retaining cash, as Tony talked about, is exceptionally important, because if you get money from a venture capitalist, if you get money from investors, you're responsible for that money. You can't just go spend it on the things that you want to spend it on. You have to spend it responsibly, and be able to account for it. So, and just have fun with it. I mean, that's going to be the most important thing. That'll take you through a lot of hard times, knowing that what you're doing is enjoyable, and if you have a purpose behind it beyond just making money for yourself. So one of the things that we have on our website is, it's kind of a tongue in cheek, but we want to save the world through coffee, one cup at a time. And we're not, it's sort of a big lofty goal, but it's something they work to. And maybe we don't save the whole world, but we help farmers in Peru have a better life. We help farmers in Honduras who grow exceptional coffees be able to send their kids to school. Or we help somebody who has a corporate job, who's feeling a little bit of drudgery, who gets an enjoyment out of having a simple, good cup of coffee in the morning to pick themselves up. So you do what you can, but you have to look a bit beyond yourself, and know that you're doing good.
And not to shine a light on a flaw, but is there something that if you went back in time and you started your career as an entrepreneur, is there something that you think you made a mistake at doing right off the bat, or that you wish you could go back and know something about beforehand? I think, again, making the big move to become an entrepreneur, there is so much pressure on yourself. So is there one thing that maybe you could have done differently back then? Tony?
Yeah. When I left corporate world, one of the things I did is I started a company that developed printer controllers. This is the old days when it was difficult to print graphics, and it took a long time to print a page. and I helped develop a controller that would speed up the process of printing intensive graphics. And it was a good product. It did what we advertised it to do, but it didn't fit any distribution channel, right? And I realized, it does. A good product is a good thing to have, but just because a product is good and it serves a purpose doesn't mean it's going to be successful. The other elements need to be in place. So if you have an idea or a product, but there's no distribution channel that fits that product, it's going to be very difficult to establish it in the marketplace. If it requires a lot of education to the market, that can be challenging because education costs a lot of money. So you have to be very careful to ensure that whatever product idea that you want to bring to market, that there's a path to get it to the eventual customer.
Jake?
I think overestimating your knowledge, overestimating because you've been successful in other things doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the equal amount or instant success being an entrepreneur. I think Tony's point, picking a product that in developing a product that you think is great, that you think is wonderful, is a good start. But you have to listen to the market. You have to listen to the feedback coming back to you saying, yeah, this is close, but I'm not willing to spend money paying for that. But if you change it and give me something a little different, I'd be willing to give you money for it. The end result is to be successful and have cash flow. But if your product is great, it's wonderful, but it doesn't solve a problem, serve a purpose, make people happy, look good in the eyes of the consumer, not based upon your eyes, not look good to you, not be great for you, but for the people who are going to be your customers, it's probably not going to fly as well as you'd like it to fly. The other mistake is going into being an entrepreneur without an open mind, without a learner's mind, because as much as anybody knows, even at my ripe old age, you think you know all that, but as soon as you start down this path, you realize that that's not necessarily the case. And so being open to educating yourself, as Tony said, and being willing to learn, to accept critique and feedback from people, those are things that if you're not open to, that maybe, when I started, I was like, no, coffee's the greatest thing in the world. Everybody drinks coffee. Well, what coffee do they drink? What are they willing to pay for that coffee? And being open to having somebody say, your website doesn't look as good as it could. Maybe if you did this and this and this, people would be more receptive to it and not take it as a personal affront. And being willing to listen. I think listening or not listening is a big mistake. Listening is a good thing.
Those are all of the questions that were submitted. If anybody else has a question, feel free to type it in. But before we wrap up, is there anything that, oh, just kidding. Tony, can you provide your contact info? I'd love to connect with you, is what one of the students has requested.
Yeah.
And
would you do that or?
Yes, I certainly can share I believe I have your LinkedIn, so I can share that with him as well after the call.
Yeah.
If there are any other questions, feel free to type them in. Otherwise, Jake, Tony, do you have any final thoughts? I know, Jake, you're in the middle of kind of starting your coffee business. So if there's anything else you would like to share on your process right now, or Tony, if there's anything else, like any parting thoughts for our students who are hoping for a career in entrepreneurship.
Go ahead, Tony.
Jake, you want to go first?
Sure. Go for it. I don't think that, trying something and if you want to be an entrepreneur, go for it. Just make the commitment, take one step at a time, chart a path and try it. Most entrepreneurs who start companies aren't successful the first time out. It takes a while. It's challenging. It's not an easy thing to do, but you learn so much by just making that commitment and taking those first steps, that if you're not successful right away, the next iteration will be better. The next one after that might be a home run. So don't give up on yourself.
Tony?
Yeah, I'd make a couple of additional points. And we've talked about having a passion or enjoying what you do. So whether you pursue a career as an entrepreneur or decide to work for another company, yeah, it's really critical that you enjoy your work, right? Because if you do, it's not work. Jake and I could both probably retire and go play golf if we wanted to, but I have no desire to do that because I enjoy what I'm doing. And, and so every day I get up and I look forward to, doing my research and doing my posts on clean technology. And so it's not work to me. Conversely, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're just going to be waiting for the day to end. And think about doing that for 40 years, right? So no matter what course you take, find something that you enjoy doing every day. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be disciplined because no one's going to be pushing you to work today or work tomorrow. So you have to ensure that you're going to not let the distractions around you impact you and that you're going to put the effort in. You also want to be prepared to pivot. You may go into start a company with a strategy and then find out, that wasn't quite right, or that wasn't the right market we were going after, or we need some additional features. So, business plans are good starting points, but they're fluid documents. And so, as Jake said, the market's going to tell you what direction you need to go in. And so don't hesitate to change course. That's not failure. You also want to define success. Success is different for everyone, right? So some people want to make a lot of money. Some people want to build a company and take it public. For me, I wanted to be an individual, independent, to be able to dictate how, my day and my time evolve. I didn't have a desire to build a consulting company and have people work for me, right? And so when you go into any endeavor, really, kind of do some self-reflection and determine what does success look like for you, because it's not the same for everyone. And lastly, we touched upon the market, because for me as a marketing guy, it's all about the market. Don't let your personal biases, color your decisions. It's not what you like. It's what the market needs and wants, right? And it may be something that you don't particularly care for, but that doesn't matter, because the objective is to find some product or service to sell into the market.
Well, thank you both very much for your time and all of your wisdom on being an entrepreneur. I know I certainly learned a lot. And so if there's no more questions, I will wrap up here and just say thank you. And I hope you both and everybody on the call have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you. Take care.
Good time.
Bye.